Hey everybody, how you doing? Mark here. Today I'm getting ready to make a wonderful dish for dinner, and that is Mongolian beef. Oh, it is really good, and actually it's a lot simpler than I thought. I thought this was going to be a very intense type dish, and it's really not. You know, it's intense towards the very end in the cooking process, but right now, no. I got everything set out for the first step, and that is the actual beef. We need to get that marinating, so let me show you what I got. Okay, so I've got about 3 pounds of a flank steak here. And we're gonna slice this probably about maybe 1/4 inch slices. I'm gonna need 2 tablespoons of vegetable oil. Do not use olive oil. Do not use the extra virgin olive oil. The temperatures we require in our pan are going to be way too hot, and it's just going to destroy the flavors. Just go with a regular veggie oil. I need 2 tablespoons of a low sodium soy sauce. I also need 1/3 of a cup of corn starch. I hate it when I do that. I already started working. I forgot to put the record on the camera. I actually went through this once already, but I'm going to show you again because I was stupid and didn't hit record. Do you see the striations in the meat and how it goes across like that? Okay, that's what people refer to as the grain of the meat. And what we're going to do is we're actually going to cut across that grain so you get little meat fibers instead of long ones, okay? So what I'm doing is I am cutting 1/4 inch slices down here. So yeah, just 1/4 inch slices. If you put your meat in the freezer for maybe about maybe 30 minutes or so, it will really help because it will stiffen up the meat and it will help you make these nice thin slices. Once we get all this meat sliced up, we're going to put it into a Ziploc bag here. And then we'll put in the rest of the ingredients for the marinade. And put all the meat in the bag, just like that. And then I'm going to work on my second one here. And there we go. So that's all sliced up, ready to go. Again, put it in the bag. Let me wash my hands real quick. Okay, to make up the marinade, we do not need to put it all in a separate bowl and pre-mix it and everything. We're just going to put it all right into the bag. Missy's wanting out of her pan. That's what that whimpering is you're hearing. So 2 tablespoons of oil. We will be using this oil later in the process. I'm also going to reuse the soy sauce. Got that to pop. I want to shake this up a little bit before I dish it out. Okay, so I need 2 tablespoons of the soy sauce. Okay, just like that. Yeah, I dribbled a little extra, oh well. And now for the cornstarch, I actually need 1/3 of a cup of cornstarch. Okay, that's going to be close enough. Before I dump that in though, I'm going to seal up my bag and toss around that oil and soy sauce just a little bit. Just to kind of make sure, oh shoot. just to make sure everything's got coated in there. All right, going to dump my cornstarch in there. Minus what I spilled all over the frickin' counter. Now we're going to toss all this. There. I tried to get a little cornstarch and stuff on everything. I think I did an okay job. Okay, so now this is going to sit in the refrigerator for at least an hour. If you can give it 2, maybe even 3 hours if you have time, that would be even better. Okay, on the bottom shelf, and probably about maybe halfway through, I'm going to flip it over, whether it's, you know, if you marinate it for an hour, 30 minutes in, I'll flip it. If you marinate it for 2, flip it after the first hour, okay? You got it, you got it, you got it. All right, being that we have the meat all marinating in the refrigerator, and we got a little time, so let's get the prep work done for the actual cooking process. Like I said, the cooking isn't hard, but it is kind of fast and stuff like that. I mean, we're gonna lay the strips of meat into a skillet, and we're gonna fry each side just for maybe like a minute or so per side, and so you just got to keep things going. So it's really good to have everything pre-measured and ready to go, so at the end of the frying process, when you actually start making the sauce, everything's pre-measured. All you got to do is just dump it in the right order and finish it off. So let me show you what we got to do. All right, I'm going to need anywhere between 1 and 2 cups of that vegetable oil that we were using earlier for the marinade. That's going to be to fry up the meat. Then I need a tablespoon of minced ginger. This is a fresh ginger root, and I only need a tablespoon of it, so we'll have to cut that up. I got a whole packet of dried red chilies. If you don't want that much heat, don't use all of it, but I would suggest using a few, maybe like 10 or so, and then as you try it out and cook it and say, oh, maybe it needs a little bit more or maybe not so much, then you can adjust. I'm going to use the whole packet. I need 4, maybe 5, maybe even 6 tablespoons of minced garlic. I need 1.5 cups of low sodium chicken broth. So I'm going to use 2 packets, but only measure out 1.5 cups of water. I'm also going to mix in 1.5 cups of soy sauce to the chicken broth. They get added at the same time in the process, so I'm just going to add it all into that 1 measuring cup. I need 3/4 cup. That's what this is, 3/4 cup of brown sugar, 3 tablespoons of water. That's what I got down there at the bottom of the cup. That's 3 tablespoons. But I need 6 tablespoons of cornstarch. And then I also need to cut up 2 bunches of green onions, just like 1-inch pieces is all I need. Okay, so the only thing I've got to really prep, other than measurements, I need to mince up my ginger. My garlic's already minced, and then cut up the green onions. Let's get into it. Okay, so I only need about 1 tablespoon, so I'm going to say that is about 1 tablespoon. I'm going to give it a quick peel. Might cut off a little bit more. This end is pretty dried out. Okay, I don't know if you guys can see this or not, but I'll do my best. Okay, so I'm going to make very thin slices. Then I'm going to make what they call matchsticks, which is basically, well, just what it implies. They look like little tiny matchsticks. Okay, now I'm gonna gather up all those little matchsticks, try to get them all facing the same direction. Don't need that. And then I'm just going to go through and make like the tiniest little cubes that you can. That's basically all mince is. Now if you want, you can still go through here and you can still kind of chop it up and do that, and turn it and do this. You can if you want. I'm gonna put that in this little bowl right here. Because that and the garlic go in together. Now I'm gonna measure out 1, 2, 3, 4. You know what? I'm gonna grab a little rubber spatula. I'm just gonna empty the rest of this jar. I'm going to say that there were 5 tablespoons of minced garlic in there. Again, if you don't like the flavor of that much garlic or you want more, add more. And then this will also go with all that at the same time. All right, now these green onions are not the best. They look kind of wilted and stuff. I'm not very happy with them, but I'm going to use them anyway. I'm going to try my best to trim off anything that looks too brown and slimy. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is just cut these in about 1-inch sized pieces. Roughly. I mean, if some are bigger, some are smaller, it doesn't matter. I'll put them in this little container as I go along. These green onions get thrown in at the very end. So if I gave you a count of how many green onions I have, I probably have about a dozen. Now, if you don't like the white part of a green onion, then don't put the white part in. Just green parts. I got a story about cutting back when I was in culinary. I'll finish this up and I'll tell you that. So my cutting story from culinary school, okay? A couple of students and I were sitting there and talking about different cut sizes, and you know, there's so many different sizes and they all have names, you know, the French have to do all that crap. But anyway, we were arguing about the size of the cut, you know, because I have a very, I don't want to say mechanical, but I have a mind. My thumb, I know, is 1 inch wide at the knuckle here, okay? And I use that quite often when I'm making measurements, whether it be for a project or for cutting stuff or whatever. A couple of students and I were sitting there looking at each other's cuts, and this one girl had hers kind of big and another kid had his really diced up kind of small, and one of our chef teachers, I think is Chef Brian, I think it was, came over and heard us arguing over who had the proper size. He goes, okay, we're going to end this right now. Okay, now Chef Brian's been around. He's worked at a lot of dinner clubs, supper clubs. He's been overseas. You know, he worked for a guy that was really famous, I guess. And the guy gave him the job of making biscuits. Okay, and he took the job, believe it or not. But anyway, he says, okay, we're going to take cheese, because cheese is formed in a block, so it's easy to cut. All the sizes should be, you know, regular sizes and stuff like that. You don't have like a curve in it or anything like that, right? So anyway, he goes, we're going to do this cut. And it was a cut that was a 1/4 inch by 1/4 inch. Chef Brian went off and he made his cuts, and the other students went off and made their cuts, and I of course made mine out of this. I think we were just using like a cheddar cheese. And we were sitting there cutting, brought them all together, and everybody had a different size cut. Chef Brian was sitting there going on and on about, you gotta make sure your cuts are precise, and if you're supposed to be making this cut, it's got to be this size and stuff. And we're arguing, well, that's what mine is, that's what hers is, that's what, they were all arguing. So finally I said, okay, fine, go get a tape measure, and we're going to measure all of these, and we're going to see who's right, including Chef Brian's. He goes, you want to do that? I go, yeah, I actually want to do that, because I know mine are right. He went and got the tape measure, and by gum, mine were spot on. Everybody else was 1/8 of an inch bigger, even up to a full 1/2 inch, instead of being a 1/4 inch, it was a 1/2 inch, so it got to be a 1/4 inch bigger. Even Chef Brian's was wrong. His was too big. And he goes, well, yeah, okay, it's fine, but when you're in the restaurant and they're going to do this cut, this is the size they want. So basically, he was making up an excuse of why his cuts were wrong. Sorry, I just had to share that with you guys. I thought that was interesting that here the chefs at the school were saying that our cuts were wrong and theirs were right, but when it came to actual measurements, mine was right. Oh well, had to show up a teacher every once in a while, right? All right, so now what we gotta do, I'm going to measure off the water and put it in the chicken broth. I'm not gonna bother boiling the water because it's gonna heat up fast in the pan. So I'm just gonna put in regular water with the packets and my soy sauce. Then we'll measure off the brown sugar. Oops. And then I still need to measure out my 6 tablespoons of cornstarch into this water here. And that's going to be a very thick paste. I'll tell you that right now. Okay. All right. So yeah, let's get some water. All right. So I need 1.5 cups of water. Okay. So there's my 1.5 cups of water. I'm going to take my 2 packets of chicken broth. This is a low sodium chicken broth. But again, you don't have to have low sodium if you don't want it. Jen is actually eating with us tonight. That's why I'm using the low sodium chicken broth and the no sodium soy sauce. I'm just going to mix that together as best I can. All right, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure out 1.5 cups of the soy sauce substitute. Let me give that a shake. This stuff settles so fast. So you gotta shake it up every time we use it. So 1.5 cups plus 1.5 cups equals 3 cups. So that's what I'm going for. Okay, so there we go. I'm up to the 3 cup line. Again, just give it a stir here. And I'll stir it even more once I actually get it in the pot to cook. All right, my next thing I'm gonna measure is my 3/4 cup of brown sugar. Pack it in there nice and tight. Every time you measure brown sugar, you always pack it into your cup. So there's my brown sugar. And finally, there's that 3 tablespoons of water. And I am going to mix in 6 tablespoons of corn starch. 2, 3, 4, 5, and there's 6. And believe it or not, I am not done with this yet. So I just want to show you guys how thick this stuff is going to get. And look at that. I don't even have everything wet yet, and it's just a huge freaking paste. The thing is, though, is that you really want to get these granules coated with water so that when you put it into the hot liquid, it just doesn't become a mass that won't dissolve. So you got to make sure that you get this all coated. I may end up throwing maybe another tablespoon of water in here. All right, so if you guys have ever had Mongolian beef before, the secret of it is a really crispy beef, and in order to do that, it's coated with cornstarch. Well, we already have it in the marinade, but we're going to add more to it. In fact, we're going to add another cup. So yes, I'm going to take out the bag and pour out 1 cup. This does not get diluted down into a slurry or anything. It'll be added dry just like this. Okay, that's about a cup. Okay guys, you ready to finish this off? This is the quick part of the thing. I mean, this is what we built this whole meal around. This is why we got to get everything prepped and ready to go, so we're not sitting there dicing and chopping something right at the end or measuring something just to throw it in the pot right away. So that's why we have to do all this mise en place. Asian cuisine is synonymous with this. Okay, they got to get everything in order first because it just happens so quick. All right, so here we go. High heat. I've only measured out about 1.5 cups of oil right now, and I'm not dumping the whole thing in, but I will probably dump in, I would say that was probably close to 1/2 cup. Yeah, about 1/2 cup. As that heats up, I'm going to take my meat mixture here with all that marinade. Okay, you see how that meat looks in there? Kind of glistening and wet. That's a good sign. Okay, we want that. What we're going to do now is we're going to take that 1 cup and we're going to dump it right in there. And we're going to zip this up. And we're going to toss again and try to get all those beef pieces coated with that cornstarch. And I mean all of it. You can feel in the bag, you can feel the lumps of meat. And I'm trying to break those apart. All right, I know that's a lot of shaking and that was probably really loud to hear. But see how that meat looks in there? That's what you want. It's like every single strand is actually separated. All right, now to tell you also what I got going on, I've got a pan down here. And in fact, I'm going to put this little dish underneath the pan so that as I'm cooking, I'm taking the meat off, I'm putting it in this pan, and the oil can actually run down to one side of the pan. Now, all this smoke that you're seeing is actually coming up from the burner. So there's something on my burner down there. It's getting hot though. I'm not throwing all the meat in all at once. I'm working in batches. Okay, here we go. I'm going to try to put in as many pieces as I can. This does spit and splatter a lot. It will cause a big mess in your kitchen. But it is so worth it. All right, that's all I'm going to put in for each batch. I'm just covering up the bottom best I can. I'm going to give this, turn that down just a wee little bit. I'm going to give this 30 seconds to a minute tops. Okay. Yeah, I'm getting splattered a lot. Yes, it does hurt a little bit. So you can see, come on, flip over, damn it. You can see all that browning that's happening. That's what you want. This is what the dish is known for. All right, so I'm going to start pulling them out. Assess my oil, make sure I have enough oil still in there, and I think I do. I think I got plenty. Okay, another batch. Here we go. Okay, I turned my heat down, so hopefully this batch won't be so noisy. Come on. Try to lay these out so they're not laying all over each other. Put my pan. Now you can see all the grease splatter going around. Like I said, this is very messy. It'll take me about a week to get all the grease off my glasses. You can see all the little pools of red juice coming out. That's when we'll flip. Those red juices will also caramelize, add to the crunch of the meat. Oh, yeah. Now the ingredients that I gave you and the measurements, this is for a triple batch. So if you don't want to make this much, you know, just cut everything in thirds. Use 1 pound of meat instead of 3 pounds of meat. Or cut it in half. Use 1.5 pounds of meat. Okay, start taking this set off. Like I said, it moves quick. It really does. I'm going to reassess my oil situation here. I think I do want a little more, maybe another 1/4 cup in there. Give that oil just a little time to heat up while I was getting stuff out. Okay, starting to get the red juices coming up, so time to flip. Rotate my pan again. The reason I move my pan around is because I don't want one spot of my pan getting really hot. So I spin it every so often so that heat disperses all the way around. And if you got one of those screen covers, use it. Okay. Now if you wanted to lay in one at a time, go ahead. All that smoke that you're seeing is from the stuff on the bottom. Trying to work as fast as I can, trying to lay out all this meat. I'm hoping that lens is doing all right because my glasses are just full of grease. And I probably got 2, maybe 3 more batches to go. I'm just going to add a little more oil. I feel like I'm getting a little low. Maybe another 1/4 cup. Okay, pouring some fresh stuff in. Like I said, if you want to lay them single, you know, one at a time, go right ahead. I'm just kind of showing you right here that you can do that. All right, everything that's left in the bag I should be able to get into the next batch. I don't think I'm going to need any more oil. So I would say that I used maybe about a cup of oil is what I'll say. All right, this should be the last batch. When this gets out, we will start making the sauce. Okay. And I'm going to start moving some of this stuff down and getting it ready. Okay, I'm going to set a cup into my sink. This is heat resistant, it's a canning jar. So I'm going to dump out some of this oil that's left in here. Yeah. So I'm going to take some of that oil, not all of it, but some of it. There we go. I'm going to put in my garlic and ginger, get that in there just for a few seconds. I'm going to throw in my red chilies. I did count them out. I think I got about 20 or 21 red chilies. Oops. All right, now we're going to take that sodium, or the low sodium chicken broth and the soy sauce, stick that in there. Gonna bring that up to a simmer. When that comes up to a simmer, I'm going to pull these other things down. Also to help with the oil splattering and, you know, the size of the food and, you know, how the quantity it makes. I could have done this in like a large pot instead of just in this little skillet, but I've done it in the skillet before, it works, so that's what I'm doing. As the frying of the meat went on, I've turned my burner down to about a medium high. So yeah, it's sticking at about a 90-degree angle. So it's not high, it's not medium, it's medium high. Okay, now to counteract all the heat from the chilies, here's some brown sugar. We're going to dissolve that in quick. And then I'm going to start scraping out this mass of cornstarch and water. And then this should thicken up nicely. Swirling that mass around, and it will dissolve. And this will get very, very thick. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it down to a medium heat. Okay, now I'm going to take all this meat, put it right into the sauce. Whoop. And we're just going to start coating everything. Just give it a little bit of a toss. Throw in the green onions. We'll also give those a little stir in. And there we go, guys. That looks really good. All right, I'm going to kill the heat. There you go, guys. That looks awesome. Oh yeah, smells amazing. Smells almost like I'm in a Chinese restaurant. And I'm not. Let's see. I want to get a smaller piece here instead of something really big. All those red chilies doesn't make a blaze inferno in my mouth, but there's a little tingle of heat there, and with all that brown sugar, it really mellowed it out. That's really nice. When you cut the meat nice and thin like this, it's nice and tender. I mean, a flank steak is one of the toughest steaks out there. This is awesome. All right, and you do it right, you get those little crispy bits all over the meat. God, it's a wonderful, it really is. Well, as you can see, I have a bowl full to eat, and I want to get to it. So thanks, guys. Thanks for watching. I will see you on the road.